Annie, what's
Hi.
up? Hey, we're,
One sec, I'm kicking something.
yeah, you're fine. Go ahead. Kick away.
I'm like, oh, okay, you're just gonna literally have everything fall on the ground. Okay,
It's
very
okay.
good.
Yeah, then you can rebuild. It's all good. What's up? How you doing?
It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you. How's life?
Beautiful in
Yeah?
San Diego. Just tomorrow's my birthday.
Oh, well, happy early birthday.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You got big
So
plans?
actually, I have no plans.
Okay. All right.
And I'm kind of that person. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's a day of reflection. That's a day of like going inward.
Yeah. I kind of do that. It reminds me of San Diego. The last time I went there, which was 2 years ago, I started in Colorado going to a wedding. It was like a Hallmark wedding, like fell into like some Hallmark movie set. And then we drove to San Diego, and it was like anytime I go on a trip, I just don't really get into the planning stages. I don't want to build up any of these preconceived notions. I just want to kind of go into it and see how it's going to unravel.
And I think that's where the memories are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It's like, remember that detour, or
Uh-huh.
remember that mom and pop restaurant that we were just like,
Yeah, yeah.
let's go. They say they have the best hoagies. I'll try. Well, maybe hoagies isn't what people use around here, but
Well, yeah, no, it works. I get it.
okay,
I
yeah.
totally get it. Yeah, I remember the one thing on that trip that surprised me. I'd gone throughout the West before because in Kansas City, you have no ocean, you have no mountains, you have no eye
Ugh.
candy. So, yeah, I know it's bad. So, on the way there, I remember going through an area of Utah where there was all of these like melted marshmallow mountain kind of formations. It was very unique and strange. We pulled over and got out and took pictures and just looked around. It was just like those little moments, which I have no idea on the map or wherever it was, but it just happened and it made sense and we pulled over. So yeah, that's the magic of travel and just being alive is just letting it happen.
Yeah, or even the idea of having the flexibility to drive,
Yeah,
that you can have a day to drive or however long it took.
yeah,
Just the idea of we're not on a tight schedule.
yeah,
It's not we check into the hotel now or never. Like,
yeah,
let's enjoy this.
yeah, yeah. I just
Yeah.
actually interviewed somebody that had a nonprofit um sports kind of world that he set up for youth for like 30 years and decided to sell everything and get into an RV and just go. So this guy just travels all the time, but he got that clarity and got that light switch clicked on through COVID and was like, what do I want to do for the rest of my
Oh,
life? And just got out of debt, sold everything, got into an RV and he's on his way. So it's very dreamy.
whoa. I don't know if I could do the RV life,
Right.
but the flexibility is huge for me. Like,
Yeah.
especially before I started dating my partner,
Yeah.
if it were up to me, I'd live someplace for 3 months, pack up, go to a new place for three
Yeah.
months. Like, why not?
Yeah.
If you work remote,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have kids. I guess I do have that luxury, or
Yeah.
maybe luxury isn't a good word, but
Well, it is. I mean, it definitely it changes things quite a bit. But I mean, that's the interesting thing about the human mind is a lot of people we live in a very complacency addled world where people do get comfortable and they don't want to do that. And I think a big
yeah.
fear for people is travel, going to a new place and
Mhm.
going into unfamiliar territory. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, people thought I was absolutely crazy for moving to California after
Right.
being raised in Jersey. They thought I
Yeah.
was like insane that I took 3 suitcases and was like, all right, I'm going to go start my life
Yeah.
in California.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So let's get into it. So what's been going
Mhm.
on since the last time we spoke? How's everything transpired? What's new?
So, one of the things that is just, I wish I did it sooner, but
Yeah.
when's the best time to plant a tree 100 years ago? When's the second best now? Or
Yeah.
I think that's the phrase.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
right? Am I
Yeah.
totally
Yeah. No,
butchering
no,
it?
no, no, no. You
Okay.
got it. You got it.
Okay. Um, I made a course. I designed a course with the topics that essentially come up with every client. I mean, because the topics are like habits and motivation and confidence, values.
Yeah.
When you're in the self-development world, you're teaching that all the time
Uh-huh.
because that's the point of developing. Like,
Yeah,
those
right.
are the hot topics.
Yeah.
So I made a course about it, and I'm just so excited because what I have found is, and I'm sure you feel this way about meeting new people, and yeah, like meeting new people
Yeah,
is, there's only so much time in a day. There's only so much one-on-one time you can spend with someone.
sure.
So that means I can't serve people everywhere.
Right.
I mean, technically I can because I can get on camera with them, but again, there's so many hours in the day.
Oh, yeah. 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 No,
And the
that's great.
course is like, here you go,
Yeah,
download.
that's it. Yeah, you get in there and you do it. So how long has it been out?
I'd say officially about a month
Okay.
or maybe 2 months, still
Okay.
pretty new.
Okay.
I will say, side note, when I was making it, I had I had like I thought it was gonna be right here, like the
Uh-huh.
latest Yeti mic. I had the noise canceling, a beautiful external camera. Everything broke the day of recording.
Oh, no.
And my computer turned black.
Oh,
I had to
no.
take it to the Mac store. It
Wow.
And so this is just a lesson for people who are like, I need to have this before I do this. I
Uh-huh.
need to have this. I need to have the latest,
Uh-huh.
best equipment in order to. And after getting it fixed, I took all the external things out. I just went on my MacBook and I taped it because I was like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah, you're totally right. And that's the thing. I remember about 3 months ago, somebody called me up, some young guy in his early 20s, and was wanting to sell me on getting a loan, a small business loan. So I essentially told him, no matter what you think is going on between this feed and my jazz show, I don't have a team of people. I don't have a big corporation. So I'm really not going to be able to go into it. So then he's just kind of like, so what do you do? Like kind of talking about podcasting, all that. So we start getting into it and we get into this rabbit hole. And he's like, yeah, I've always wanted to start my own feed, but I need to get all this equipment, do all this. I was like, no, you don't. I was like, listen to me. Do you have a
great
computer?
mentor.
Just yeah, just get in there, get a cheap microphone. You can find one cheap on Amazon. Just start the process, weed it out, get into it. And then if you want to add to it, maybe you'll make revenue off of it. Figure it out, but at least start. So we go through this whole 15-minute thing, and he was like, man, I feel really guilty right now because I was supposed to sell you something. And you sold me on the idea of doing this. And I'm like, don't worry about it, dude. Just do it. And I think that's the
Yes.
common misperception with podcasting exploding, and you see all these people with fancy microphones that light up and backdrops and all this stuff. At the end of the day, the real gumption and glory of doing it is what you bring to it, and you can make anything work.
Yes. a
So
hundred percent.
yeah.
I love that you said it right because the background and the mic,
Uh-huh.
and I believe on Amazon you can get one of those tiny clips mics for $20.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I found one called Babbel, and it's not the
Oh,
same price anymore, but it was
mhm.
$29. I was like, I just have to get this to see what it's like. And
Alright.
it's just a regular old microphone.
Oh, nice.
It's just got a little volume bar. It works fine. And
Mhm.
that's it. And it's like it can be that simple because at the end of the day, you can put it into a program and play with the audio. And there's so many ways that you can figure it out. So it like
Yeah.
anything in life, you just have to get started. And I think sometimes whether it's an excuse or it's something else that we do as humans to convince ourselves of something that doesn't exist, it's just a matter of
Oh,
doing it.
I think I think that's it, and it's a great excuse for people who aren't, I don't wanna say go-getters because that doesn't sound kind, but that is what separates the people from getting stuff done and
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
is, and if you're a person that's like, oh well, I don't have the money for this, so how can I start? I don't have the money, but it's the answer is start.
Yeah.
There's so many free resources.
Yeah.
And um have you ever heard of SFD?
SFD. I don't explain.
So someone taught it to me, I had no idea for years.
Yeah.
It's called the, I don't know if I could say the first word.
Okay. Give it a shot.
It's okay, shitty first draft.
Okay. Okay.
And
Gotcha.
it's to I love this concept. It's to go into anything accepting the fact
Yeah.
that it will be a shitty first draft.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
like, this is the first draft. Who
Uh-huh.
cares?
Uh-huh.
When we write essays in school, we had a first draft.
Yep.
Um, go if when you go into it, it's less pressure because you're
Yep.
like, all right, it's just my first draft. I can't expect miracles or
Yeah.
perfection, I should say.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. And I remember when I started my journalistic world, I got my first job in college because of a letter I wrote to the Kansas City Star about a baseball player. And I and the guy was like, he must have been desperate enough, was like, "Come on in." And I was really not good at writing at that point, and they would
Oh,
use a lot of my stuff to just kind of cull together stats because it was sports, and then they would craft something out of it. But as time went on, that's always been a bad part of what I do, no matter what I write, is that
mm,
there's always some level of editing that goes into it. But it's never stopped me from continuing, or during college, I won several awards, a handful of awards. So none of that really matters because there's
yeah.
always someone else that has you. I mean, you think about all the books that are out there. There's so many people out there that just literally are atrocious at editing and putting it out there. If they
It's
didn't
so
have the
true.
people, it just wouldn't happen. So you just got to do it. You do have to have the shitty first draft, and then you can go from there, you know?
Yeah, you're you're so right. Just do it. Don't
Yeah.
let it stop you.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. I one of my or my main business coach, I think she makes like 300,000 a month. This woman is this woman is on another level.
Yeah.
But she will tell you, go look at my first YouTube video. Go look at it. I'm in a closet. I'm at lunch when I was still working full time. The lighting was terrible. I sound terrible. My voice is all, I was scared. It was so awkward and dark. And she talks about all the bad things about the video. And now she's like, look, I have a photo editor or I have a videographer.
Yeah.
This is why you work so hard, and then you add people to your team even if they're contractors, even if you
Yeah.
don't do full time, then you hire the guy to make them, or girl,
Yeah.
to make the sound better,
Sure.
to
That's
design
it.
the background,
Yeah.
like whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So if you look at, do you like Seinfeld? Do you like the show?
I couldn't say I'm a huge fan, but
Okay.
I know the characters.
Okay. So if you were to I was a big fan for a long time. And by the time they got to the end of that series, they were
Mhm.
so good at what they were doing. The comedy was good, the writing was better, everything was good. I don't know that Larry David was there in the beginning again, but after he got in there and really started chugging, it was really good. But the first season's so bad. Like the fact that NBC picked it up is like, what were you guys thinking? It was just very pedestrian, very delayed, very clunky, and they survived that first year. And I think you see that in a lot of things. There's just, I mean, you look at like the first season of any talk show that's out there, whether it's Conan or whoever it is, it's just not going to be really good. It's going to be very,
Oh,
and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's that whole idea of Malcolm Gladwell saying, after 10,000 hours, you become an expert, but you have to start at some point to work your place into being an expert. It just takes time.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. And I think another thing that stops people from doing that is even where they want to spend their attention. So for example, that guy trying to sell you, it sounds like he's been thinking about a podcast for a while.
Uh-huh.
But there's some people that are like, I'm just good at a lot of things. I want to write a book, I want to do a podcast, then I want to
Uh-huh.
make it into an audio book, and then I want to start a nonprofit. And because of the decision fatigue or the overwhelm of even picking,
Yeah.
that's why they don't start. Look at all these words today. I'm going to take a sip of
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah, no, it's good. Well, I mean, and I think too, it's like the coach. It's like a lot of people can't afford coaches, and there's so many people that I interview that are coaches that I think we all do need to have that level of person in our life that's like, just do like I got a really good friend of mine. His name's Kato, and he's named after Inspector Kato from Pink Panther because he's kind of sneaky. And
Oh,
and and he's awesome. His name's Brian Kitahara, but we've named him Kato. And he's the one that has introduced me to everything. Like I remember the first time I saw Google in the mid to late 90s, he was like, "You got to see the search engine." And then he introduced me to YouTube. Like he's just because he's the guy that's introduced me to all these things for the first time.
yes.
And he will always kind of throw these little things in my ear, like about my radio show. He was like, "Just stop releasing so many things. Stop putting so much stuff out there because
Mm.
it will build up people to want intrigue." And I totally get that, but there's a part of me that just can't do it. But I know that when I do it, like I remember years ago, he said, he was kind of my broker when I was doing artwork, and he would help me get shows, and we would do contracts, and we would do all this stuff. And I was wanting to get a website, and I was wanting to do all these fancy things, you know, Joe Dimino artwork or whatever. He was like, just do your name, just do joedimino.com. So as it turns out, as time has gone on, there's a guy in Jersey that has the minor league baseball Hall of Fame. His name's Joe Dimino, and his people get upset because they're like, "Who the hell is this guy in Kansas City that's doing podcasts and artwork?" And there's other people out there that are major writers and doctors and all of this, and they're all like have the same name, but it was before the explosion of everybody grabbing a .com. So yeah, it's
Yes.
so in a roundabout way, it's always there's always someone in your life if you can't afford a coach that's going to be there that's going to drop all these little pieces that if you grab onto it, you're going to look back and be like, man, that was the right thing to do.
Totally. We all need a friend like that.
Yeah,
That guy sounds great
yeah,
and really, really heart-centered.
yeah,
I mean, brokeraging something,
sure,
there are finances involved, but it sounds like this guy was awesome before money was even a part of your friendship.
yeah,
It sounds like this guy was so down for tips and tricks.
yeah,
I think I'm sure you're familiar with this phrase of we're the sum of the top 5 people we hang out with.
yeah,
So if you're hanging out with a guy who is like, let me teach you this, let me teach you this,
sure,
that's a great thing,
yeah,
as opposed to all the friends that complain and don't go for it, or this internet thing is still shaky.
yeah,
Don't waste your time. I mean, obviously, we know that's not the truth,
yeah,
but yeah, we need
yeah.
that friend.
Yeah, really, I think I've realized that the older I've gotten is to really surround yourself around top shelf people. And I was very fortunate in my
Mhm.
20s when I was really running to be around a lot of very creative, very highly driven people that I mean,
Right.
good friends of mine were in a band that got very close to getting big, but they were always playing instruments. I was painting all the time. We were always writing and doing things. And it was like a lot of us, the backbone of what we were kind of going after was a little bit like the kind of beatnik mentality of the 60s. Just we wanted to ingest the goodness of like art and music and all of these things. And it was the real it was kind of the as the Gen X idea was really sinking in, we were kind of refuting that 50s notion and just kind of diving into these new things where we don't want to worry about getting laden down with mortgages and all of these things that society tells you that you need to have and just have some level of freedom. So that was the first time I saw San Diego, actually. We went on a whim, a friend of mine called me up, and 4 of us went in a car and started in Kansas City, went up and saw friends in Colorado, made our way down through Utah and Moab and got to San Diego. And my friends lived in San Diego back in the early 90s. They were making films with a good friend of mine's brother that actually is in Germany. He's award-winning filmmaker now, but they lived in the Gaslight District. And there was an old dude that was down there. They used to always talk about him. He was an old homeless guy that had kind of a blues musician swagger about him. God, what was his name? But they always had these anecdotes and they talked about how much fun it was, but you can't live there forever being just kind of trying to find things to happen because it's expensive and you got to have some angle. And it was short lived, but they loved it
Yeah.
down there. They just totally glowed. So when I got down there, it was like I had never seen anything like that. It was like paradise. And to this day, anytime I get down there, I'm like, my God, why am I in Kansas City? Like this is the place to be. You know?
Yeah, but I totally see the idea of when they didn't have a plan, how
Yeah.
it's like, "Yeah, I love this, I'm having a ton of fun, also I'm spending a lot of money,"
Uh-huh.
and maybe if it's not even partying money, it's like, "No, I'm doing this to survive.
Yeah.
I need to eat."
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think it really set their course for their lives, like having a thirst for other places and traveling and everything's worked out, but I think it was a good stepping
Nice.
stone. And I think at that point in your life, if it doesn't work out, you at least have that seed in you that says, I can go wherever I want. I can move. Like what you did. You can pick up and go somewhere, and it'll work out. You just and that's the thing. I remember a quote. I was reading a book recently about Muhammad Ali, and one of the reasons
Mm.
why he talks so much shit was because he knew that he had to stand behind it. He knew that if I'm going to say I'm the greatest and I'm going to beat you hard in the ring, he better do it. And that's kind of like when you do put all your chips on the table and say to your family and everyone in Jersey, I'm going to this brand new place 3,000 miles away. You better you better figure it out.
It's so true. It's so true. And they say that about people who, let's say, want to start their own business and are still working full time, that some people work best where they just quit their jobs. They don't exactly have savings. And they're like, because of the pressure I'm under, I'm going to make it work. But I
Yeah.
only work if I have this extreme pressure.
Uh-huh.
Where other people are like, I'd rather have 6 months of expenses saved and I want no debt before I do this. So some people are like, well, this lights a fire under my butt.
Yeah.
And others are like, I could never.
Yeah.
I could never.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was interviewing a legendary bass. He's a composer and bassist. He's wonderful. His name is Avery Sharp. And he was the one that had Muhammad Ali behind him as his backdrop yesterday, and we were getting into it. But he was telling me at one point his new album is about just the disintegration of racial relations, women's rights, the repeal of all of these things that are happening that are just abhorrent. Like we've stepped back like 50 or 60 years in a very short amount of time. It's frightening.
Yeah.
And his album is kind of a rebuttal to that and kind of regenerating some strength. And he was at one point said something very poignant about the fact that anytime we're under distress, we all operate in this kinship. Like right after 9/11 or right after the pandemic began, we all operate under this whole guise of taking care of each other, being very
Mhm.
cautious and very aware and just helping each other out. And how quickly that goes away. How quickly we go back to this just, screaming at somebody on the highway if they drive too close to you or something like that. It just does. It's the way that humans are. And he was just kind of musing and bemoaning in his kind of wise older brain of his being a jazz guy, like, why can't we just do that all the time? And it seems like it's
Yeah.
relatively simple, but it's like moving and traveling. When you are under adverse situations, human beings definitely step up. It's like I ran a United Way campaign at one point, and the stat was always the lower 3%, 5% of our society gives the most. It's not the rich people. They're going for tax breaks and credits, but it genuinely is
Yes.
because we all know what it's like to have to fight to get through inflation and all of the nonsense the rich people don't have to worry about. But we're the ones that give the most. So it's wild.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just,
That speaks volumes, seeing stats like that.
yeah. Yeah.
Or how quickly we can turn on each other.
I know.
So, like, at first in the beginning of the pandemic, it was like, "Oh my goodness, we're all
Uh-huh.
suffering. Oh my gosh, this is wild." And then as like things started happening and decisions started happening, then your neighbor's your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Even some people in your house, like your roommate or like your child, can now be. And then the election comes up, and
Uh,
also there's a divide.
uh-huh.
So then people are all, so it's so crazy how, like, at one point we are like, we need to stick together. We absolutely need to stick together to make
Yep.
change. And then something else happens in society, and it's like, I will like rip you to shreds or
I know.
whatever. Like,
I
I
know.
will cancel you immediately if it means that you're blank.
Yeah. It is kind of weird and frightening how all that's happening. Like, for instance, here in Kansas City, that Harris
Mhm.
Buckner, did you hear about that speech that he gave? He's our kicker.
Oh,
Yeah, right. So, all right.
not the whole thing, but
Yeah,
parts.
yeah, what he was putting out there was so weird. This is the weird thing about the dude. So he's sitting there saying, women should stay at home. They should only be talking about having more kids. His mom is a physicist, a high-level physicist that's been out in the world as a professional her whole life. Dude, what are you doing? Like, I know you came from Georgia. I know that there's different value systems that exist in this country. But anyway, I'm just thinking about like, okay, fine. If you have these views and you want to do them, it's all contextual. But
Mm,
this dude's going to get canceled in a way. Like it hasn't stopped. You can tell when it's going to get to a cancel point. Like I remember the early rumblings of Bill Cosby. There was a couple people that were like, "Yeah, we all knew." And it's like some weird ominous tweet. I'm like, wait, what do you mean we knew? And then all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 boom. All the women are on with Barbara Walters, and it's like, I see what you guys knew. And but sometimes some stories can just kind of go away. Like who was it? James Franco was just kind of creepy. But I think it may have just woke him up and he's like, all right, I don't need to be creepy. I don't need to be using this
mm.
Hollywood card anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of went away. And he kind of went
Yes,
away and maybe he's rehabbing. But then you see the tidal wave, like, but this Harris Buckner guy, he's going to get destroyed everywhere he goes. And the Chiefs,
there's no way.
we finally have a dynasty and have a good thing going. Mahomes is a great cat. And now it's like everywhere they go, it's going to be banners and get rid of this guy. So I'm just trying to figure out what his angle is. Is he at the end of his career and he went to church one morning and
Oh,
they're like, you have to tell everybody? I don't know. It's just weird how people decide to do that in this very contentious cancel culture, you know?
and boldly do it. And
Yeah.
just as you were mentioning the idea that we already are, women's rights are already
Oh,
50 years back. So such a hot topic for him to anchor on. I mean, I have my master's degree. I have an associate's, bachelor's, and master's. I am pretty much $100,000 in debt. I know a lot of people don't like talking like about exact numbers, but
yeah.
I'll just be
Right.
honest.
Sure.
If I'm sitting there at my graduation and someone tells me
Yeah.
essentially you want kids and that's your purpose, I might have fainted in the seat.
Yeah, of course.
More than likely I would have gotten up and walked out.
Uh-huh.
But do you know how much people pay to be there? Do you know how many hours men and women put into studying? How dare you say?
Yep.
And also I talk pretty openly about this idea of I don't want children. Even as a growing up I didn't.
Sure.
But I think any woman who wants one
Sure.
should have it.
Absolutely.
I think that someone shouldn't tell me I that's my
I
purpose.
know. I know.
Like
Yeah.
I
I know, you know, rich white dudes need to start shutting up. They need to start listening more because I think the thing that's the grossest about what's happening to women, and that's why I'm
Mm,
hoping in this election cycle there's a waking up, is that this isn't necessarily about abortion. This is about just taking care of basic services. Those are going away. So if you're a woman in Mississippi, we're not talking about 9 months in, just I'm going to willy nilly go in. That's stupid. And any of these people that say that that's what's happening is so deceptive. It's like a preacher that's robbing you blind under the guise that they're spiritual. It's more about the fact that there
yeah.
is genuine basic services that need to be rendered, and women need them more than men, that need to be upheld. And it's all these dipshit dudes that are doing this, and they need to stop. They just
I
do.
think I think that is what also sinks in and kills me slowly is the idea of but men, you will never get pregnant. At least
Right.
now in
Right.
history. You've
Exactly.
never been pregnant
Never.
before, and I don't know if you'll get pregnant. Like I don't know what's going to happen, but you have never experienced being
Nope.
pregnant. So how can you make such a bold decision for someone that you will never ever 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 be affected by?
Yeah.
And even the results of like how much we spend on Viagra
I know. I
and
know.
how there's and
My
then
God.
but like women can't have tampons in school or like pads in school. It's just
it's so stupid. All of it's so stupid. I bemoan the idiocy that goes into this country, and then just the fact that we're even deciding what we have to decide this November. But anyway, real quick,
I'm
we'll
just going
listen,
off.
we're going on, which is what I was hoping we were going to do to catch up.
Okay.
But I need to scoot on to the next one, but let's keep this dialogue
Okay.
going. We'll just check in we'll hash it out. Maybe what we'll do, since we kind of got on this bend right here,
It's
maybe we'll catch up closer to election time and just kind of
Ooh.
check in, see how everything's going with your business, figure out the world at that point. We'll just keep the dialogue going.
You rock. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Thank you for reaching back out. We'll keep it going and best of luck. Keep doing the
Okay.
good work.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers.
You too.
Send my love to San Diego.
I
Yes.
will.
Cheers.
Bye.
Take care. See you later.